Good afternoon and welcome inside another edition of That's What I Think with Brandon Swanson. I'm your fearless host, Brandon Swanson, and we're coming to you a day late, but certainly not a dollar short. And this week, talking to you about the recent baseball signings, the big baseball signings by the San Diego Padres and the Boston Red Sox. And we'll start things off with the San Diego Padres. They recently signed Eric Hosmer to an 8-year, $144 million deal. How about that? The former Kansas City Royal fan favorite headed to San Diego. Now, if I'm Eric Hosmer, I'm looking at this and saying, man, I'm going to San Diego. I'm happy. I just love that weather. That's me, especially now being a Chicagoan and having still kind of the cold and all that, crap. But the move's an interesting one. The move is an interesting one because from a Padres perspective, you're a team who finished 71-91 last season, a full 33 games out of first place, and you're not close to competing in the West. In fact, many people have the San Diego Padres multiple years away from competing in the West. And yet they go out and they make a big splash for a big name in Eric Hosmer. And Hosmer, he's seen more as a guy, that at age 28, who's going to be able to make things happen for a team to win now. And Eric Hosmer, still, he's in his prime. He's right in his prime. But it just, to me, it's interesting, the interesting move by the San Diego Padres, who, again, they're not very close, I don't think, to competing. Now, Padres fans will say, well, what about our farm system? Yeah, I'm a Sox fan. We have a good farm system, too. Doesn't mean we're going to compete for a World Series this year because your farm players are in your farm system, not in the major league system. Now, the Padres, I think, have a top 5, maybe even a top 3 farm system, but how long does it take those guys to get to the majors? That's going to be one of the biggest things. Now, maybe Eric Hosmer coming to the Padres can maybe move up the years of how, basically what I'm saying is, because I can't think of the right term, but it can move up where they need to be. Instead of 4 years, they'll compete in 3. That's basically what I'm trying to say. I couldn't think of the right word to say it, but it will fast track them being competitive. And honestly, Eric Hosmer is a guy, in my opinion, who can change a franchise. I think he did a whole lot for the Kansas City Royals. I think he can do a whole lot for San Diego. And it's really interesting because he's going to be coming in, he's going to be taking Wil Myers' job over at first base, so Wil Myers will be moved to the outfield. And now the outfield, a very crowded outfield, it's going to be interesting who the San Diego Padres are going to go with. But the signing for Hosmer is an interesting one for me in terms of the San Diego Padres as an organization, because usually when you're in the midst of a rebuild, you don't spend huge amounts of money to bring in one guy. Usually you're not spending huge amounts of money. You're saving money by getting rid of contracts of guys that are costing you a lot of money. So it's an interesting move by the San Diego Padres. But for Eric Hosmer, the deal really is one he won, I think. He gets the long-term contract, no trade clause, certainly a full no trade clause in his first couple of years, and then I think it's a partial no trade clause towards the back end. He gets that 8 years. He's able to get the big-time money that he was hoping for, $144 million. He's going to join a club that is certainly closer to contention. Yes, closer to contention than the one he was on. The San Diego Padres are closer to contention than the Kansas City Royals. And why is that? Well, the Royals, they're just now getting in the midst of their rebuild. Lorenzo Cain is gone. Hosmer's gone. Moustakas is not coming back. Wade Davis was gone. I mean, they are in the midst of a rebuild. The Kansas City Royals, they know it, and GM Dayton Moore has certainly said that they are as well. Again, for anyone who has said or says that Eric Hosmer can significantly change this team, I would say that you're completely wrong. A guy who has hit 25 home runs the past 2 seasons and 18 the year before. It's a guy who's really started to put it together, especially in his last 3 seasons. He has had really strong years and had really strong years for the Kansas City Royals. And then you look at what the San Diego Padres did this past season. Wil Myers had 30 home runs. Renfroe had 26. Austin Hedges had 18. Hosmer, you put in his 25 homers? At least? Possibly more? I know he's going to Petco Park, more of a pitcher-friendly park, and people said, well, if he gets out of Kauffman Stadium, maybe he'll even hit more. Well, going to Petco, I wouldn't necessarily say he's going to be hitting astronomically more home runs, but being around the 20 to 25 home run area, that's good. That's another great piece to add to the San Diego Padres. You add that, runs go up, wins go up, success goes up. I think that Eric Hosmer significantly can change the San Diego Padre franchise, but what they are is a few pitchers away. The San Diego Padres aren't going to be winning anything with Clayton Richard as your ace, who went 8-15 last season with a 4.79 ERA. What the Padres need to find is pitching. Now, on one of our shows with Ricky Widmer and myself, I said Yu Darvish was really not good for the Brewers. He didn't go to the Brewers. I said he was really not good for the Cubs. He did indeed go to the Cubs. Yu Darvish goes to the Padres, I would have said, okay, because the Padres don't have much else. The Brewers did, and the Cubs do. But San Diego, not focusing on that, focusing on hitting and position players. Well, you have to pitch, and the San Diego Padres are a couple of pitchers away. Now, the other guy I wanted to talk about, J.D. Martinez. J.D. Martinez signs with the Boston Red Sox. Finally, right? Finally. It seemed like this was going to happen forever, and now it finally does. A 5-year, $110 million deal with the Boston Red Sox, something that just absolutely fit for both teams. So he can opt out, 2 opt-out opportunities. He can opt out after season 2. He can opt out after season 3. In his first 2 seasons, he's going to make $50 million. Give me a contract when I can make $50 million in my first 2 years. That'd be outstanding. He'll make $22 million in year 3. Unbelievable. Certainly a front-heavy deal for J.D. Martinez, but he's worth all of it. He's guaranteed that much money. Unbelievable. Unreal. Unreal. This move makes so much sense, though. It makes so much sense because Boston was last in the American League last year in home runs. Boston, the Red Sox, last in the American League in homers. And they certainly weren't much better in slugging percentage. J.D. Martinez, who had a career season last year, hitting 45 home runs, will definitely help that. Another thing that's great for Boston is that J.D. Martinez, he's no stranger to the American League, and he's no stranger to American League pitching. Him being on the Tigers for a number of seasons, he is very good. Me being a White Sox fan, knowing that he hit 11 home runs against the White Sox in his career, I know he's very good, and I know that I don't like to see him up to bat, and never did like to see him up to bat because I knew he could hurt us at any time. He can play a mean right field, that's for sure, and he can be your DH for Boston. So he gives you a couple of options, does J.D. Martinez, and that's a type of player that you really want. You need to be able to insert him into the lineup every single day if you can in some way, shape, or form. Also, if Boston can stay away from the injury bug, which they could not last season, I mean, just take a look at Dustin Pedroia. He could not get healthy. He could not get healthy. He could not get right. But if Boston stays away from the injury bug, they have a chance at another East title. And they have that chance because they signed J.D. Martinez. They don't sign Martinez, I'm saying it's going to the Yankees. After the huge haul that the Yankees had this offseason, Stanton obviously being the headliner for them, the Red Sox needed to do something. And they did. They did exactly what they needed to do. They went out and they got the big bat that was out there. And it made sense from both sides. And both sides knew they wanted it. Boston wanted J.D. Martinez, and J.D. Martinez wanted to go to the Boston Red Sox. He was not going to return to the Diamondbacks because they just weren't going to be able to offer him the money. They didn't have it. They didn't have that much money because it's all shored up in Zach Greinke. That's what happens when you put so much money into one guy. You can't make the moves that you want to. And now look at Arizona and watch them. They may not be as good as they were last season. I'm not saying it's all because of J.D. Martinez, but he's the reason that they made it to where they did at the end of the year. So for Boston, this is a great move. I think that going with Martinez, now you don't have to lean as much on Hanley Ramirez. That actually may make him a better player. Look for Hanley Ramirez maybe to have a bounce-back year this season. Certainly a down year last season. For the Boston Red Sox, watch for this team, especially when they make it into the playoffs, because they will. The Boston Red Sox may have just enough firepower now to be able to make a run at the World Series. And that's what I think this week. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Again, really excited for this baseball season. A couple of big moves with Eric Hosmer and JD Martinez significantly helping their clubs. Again, thanks so much for watching. What was the big move in your mind that happened this offseason? What move do you like? What moves do you not like? Let me know down below here in this video, in the comment section down below the video. Again, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week, normal time. It'll be Wednesday, 2 Central, 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. So long.